Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Little Likac podcast. It is episode 48 and today is Sunday the 29th of January. You are very welcome to join me. My name is Amanda and I live in Derby in the United Kingdom. I live here with my husband, one of my daughters, some chickens, a dog and a couple of gerbils in the house as well. This is a knitting podcast with a little bit of crochet thrown in. And I'm here today to share with you what I've been working on and how I'm progressing with my January goals. We also have a giveaway to a winner to announce today as well. So if you are taking a part in the Crack the Whip mail and you've been posting on the Ravelry chatter thread, then do stay tuned to the channel, to this podcast, because very shortly I will be choosing a winner, for selecting a winner, because it will be random from that Ravelry thread, and the winner will be receiving this skein of yarn, and this skein of yarn is from Dye Spin Knit, who did have an Etsy shop. I have no idea if she still has, because I think I got this a little while ago, and this is a sock yarn club from, I say, a few years ago now. So something from out of my stash. So I will be choosing a winner for this today. Okay, so what have I got to show you today? I have got a finished object, a complete finished object, a half finished object, lots of progress that I have made on some of my bigger whips that I'm working on, and have I got a new cast on? No new cast ons, but I'm going to talk a little bit about a new cast on that's coming up. Talk about what I have achieved in January, what I want to do in February, because yeah, it's nearly the end of January, and we'll talk a little bit about the make along, and that's about it really, for a little bit of what's been going on. It has been a busy couple of weeks for me, so I did say last time I podcast that I wasn't sure how much I would get done over the next 2 weeks, because last weekend we had a family weekend. It was my daughter's 18th birthday party. We had a lovely family weekend, and I got some knitting done that weekend, actually, possibly more than I had anticipated. So the January goals are not looking bad. There's a couple of days left to go. I won't have completed everything, but I had set myself a lot of targets, and I'm pretty impressed with what I have got done. Right, so shall we start? Let's start with the finished object and then I'll do the giveaway. Alright, so the first finished object, and this was one of my works in progress that I brought into the new year. Now this was supposed to be a Christmas present for my mum. She had specifically asked, and she'd left it till relatively late notice before I found out, that she wanted a pair of fingerless gloves. But when she said fingerless gloves, she didn't mean completely fingerless. She meant, I think I've got those on the wrong hand, she meant gloves with some fingers to them, and yeah, gloves with some fingers to them, but not all the way up to the top. Now my mum has relatively large hands, so I knitted these slightly bigger. They're a bit big for me, but here they are finished. So yes, they were supposed to be for Christmas. Unfortunately, those of you who are regular viewers, you know that I injured my hand, my thumb and this finger in particular, and they were bandaged up, so I couldn't really do work on anything too small and fiddly for a few weeks. But yes, look at these. I actually really love them. I know they're not quite matching. I didn't stress over that. I could have, if I'd wanted to, tried to match up where I'd cast on the tip, but I don't think it matters, and also with the way the fingers go, it would have been very difficult to have kept it right for the fingers. I don't think it matters, and I don't think my mum will mind at all. So I'm really pleased with these. I will be posting them down to my mum in the next week or so, and gifting them to her as a belated Christmas present. So yes, I knitted these on 2.5mm needles. I think the pattern said, what did the pattern say? I think the pattern said to use 2.25. I can't remember now. I think the pattern said to use 2.25 for the ribbing and then 2.5 for the main gloves. And because my gauge is usually a bit tighter, and I usually knit socks on 2.25 all the time, I decided to do, I was going to do 2.5mm for these and for the ribbing, 2.75 for the main glove. I'm glad I didn't, because I think they would have been too big. I just used 2.5 for the entire thing. Yeah, I used 2.5 for the entire thing, and I think they look fab. And as I say, they're a bit big for me, so I'm hoping they will fit my mum perfectly. I did a couple of extra rounds between the end of the rib and the start of the thumb gusset, if I remember rightly, as well, just again so that my mum they were like going to come down quite a way down. The pattern's called Fingerless or Knot gloves, I believe. I can't believe actually that I've not got that on in my head, but yeah, Fingerless or Knot gloves. Hopefully I've got a little card, or I'll put it down here, so that you've got the information. It was a free pattern on Ravelry, and it wasn't badly written actually, because there were some comments in the comment section on Ravelry saying that the pattern wasn't quite right, the instructions weren't quite right for the right hand. I didn't find it any problem at all. I did make one mistake when the first time I was doing the fingers. I'd done the thumb and the little finger, and my placement of this finger was completely wrong, but I realised, ripped it out, ripped back and followed the instructions again. So it must have been my mistake, because when I followed the instructions the second time, I got it. The yarn I used for this was Wendy Happy, which is 75% bamboo, 25% nylon. Again, if you are a regular viewer, you will know my mum is allergic to wool, so this is the yarn that I usually knit her socks with. I have still got some left in my stash of different colourways, but it is discontinued. I need to find another sort of substitute for that, really. So if anybody else knows of a 4-ply bamboo nylon, that would be nice for socks or things like that for my mum, let me know. Anyway, yeah, so really, really pleased with those. They are looking great, and I hope she loves them. And then my second finished object is not really finished object, it's a half finished object, and these are the Painting Brick socks by Stephen West. Now this is part of his Year of the Socks, I think that's what he's called them, Year of the Socks pattern book that he released at the start of the year. I bought it on the early bird. Now, if you have seen some of my previous podcasts, you'll know that I'm not really into Stephen West as a designer per se. I can admire the work it takes. I can admire the colours and things that other people choose to use, but usually they're just not my vibe. There are a few Stephen West designs in the past that I've looked at, kind of gone, perhaps some of his earlier work, but when he's got more and more extreme maybe in some of his designs, I'm going to be honest and say they're generally not for me. But when he released the Painting Brick socks, or the ebook of sock patterns, they weren't mystery, although you didn't see complete details. There was a picture on the front with lots of the socks on, and I looked at them and I wanted to make, or I am making, a set of socks for my daughter's housemates. Oh, I need to give them a shout out, because apparently they do watch, so hello to Eloise's housemates. And I thought, because Stephen West's designs are quite fun, quite funky, often quite bright and colourful, obviously I know that's down to the colours that you choose, but I thought those designs might be quite good for some of these socks for the I can't decide if I'm calling it the student socks or the housemate socks. Anyway, so ta-da, here is the first one complete of the Painting Bricks, and I'll show you how far I've got on the second one. Now, these are also particularly special. So this is the first pair. This pair will be for a student who likes green, so they might know who they are, and they've got the smallest feet out of everybody in Eloise's house. Eloise is my eldest daughter at uni. She has got the smallest feet of everybody in the house as well, which is just as well, because it was a bit of a faff of a pattern to knit, because there's a lot of purling, and I'm not very quick at purling on small DPNs. It's not my favourite thing to do, so I'm glad that this was the smallest size. Now you'll also see the pink, we have this weird sort of like white flashes, and some of those white flashes, the gauge is a bit different. That is because this yarn is magic. It's not quite magic. The white flashes is actually yarn that glows in the dark, and it really does glow in the dark. When these get washed and worn, hopefully some of the unevenness you can see there, because it's very stiff, the bit that's been treated with the glow in the dark stuff is quite stiff, but according to the website, when they've been washed a few times and worn, it does start to soften. I wonder then if it loses some of its glow, but who knows. So I've used the painted brick pattern pretty much as it's written. However, the pattern says a folded rib for the cuff. I did not do that. I just did the 2x2 rib for about 22 rows, I think, so a relatively long cuff still. And then I went into the painted brick, and I must admit I didn't follow the pattern for the toe. I don't know what the pattern said to do for the toe. I just did what I do as a standard toe. The heel is a bit of the heel is basically heel flap and gusset, but it's with a garter stitch heel, which is a little bit different as well, and it goes quite well, I guess, with the pearl bumps, with the pearl stitches on here. Obviously you don't have pearl stitches on the foot, on the sole. So the second pattern from the ebook, they're being released once a month. The second pattern is a cable one. I don't think I'm going to be using that. I'll wait and see what the February one looks like before deciding, because I'm thinking my next student sock might be a simpler pattern, just so to make sure I get it finished in February. But I am on to the heel of the second sock. Today is the 29th of January. I don't think I will have it finished by the end of January, because I've only got a couple more days, but it certainly should be finished fairly quickly in February. I've done the worst of it really, because the foot, you've only got to do the purling for half of each round as well, so it will be quicker. So won't be finished by the end of January, but will not be long after. So the yarn, I've got the ball bands in here. Oh, that's a bit frustrating. Okay, so the yarn, this one is by Rosie's Moments, and the glow in the dark range that she's got is called Glow, just G-L-O. It is 4-ply, 75% merino, 25% nylon, but as I say, some of it is treated with this glow in the dark. And this is Valley yarn, sock yarn, and it's a 50-gram ball. Can't remember the colourway, I'm afraid, on this. I got it in the sale, I want to say Lovecrafts, I believe. So it was quite a reasonable price. I think about £3, maybe less than that in their sale. And it just, I thought it'd be good to have stuff that hopefully, well, I don't know how machine washable really. I always say really with socks you shouldn't machine wash, especially perhaps with this glow in the dark. They probably should be hand washed, but hopefully the students will be able to cope with that. Alright, so that was my second. Now in my January goals, I think I had said that I had wanted to finish these, but I suspect when I made that I didn't realise that it would be a little bit more time consuming and a bit more fiddly than I anticipated. So I haven't finished them, probably won't finish them by the end of January, but they will not be far away. They should be finished within the first few days of February. So put that over there, because I shall be taking that, oh, put a progress keeper in. I shall be taking that up, back up to the house. What do I mean by back up to the house? Well, for those of you who are new to the channel, I film my podcast down in the office, and our office is a little cabin type office at the bottom of our garden. Right, let me put a progress keeper in there so that when I show it to you in 2 weeks' time, finished, we'll remember where I had got to. It will be finished in 2 weeks' time when I next podcast. Okay, shall we do the giveaway? Let's do the giveaway. Right, so I am running a whip make along for certainly the first part of this year. WIP stands for Work in Progress, and I started 2023 with about 16 projects all in progress. Some of those were very old, very old, like 12 or 13 years old, some were 2 or 3 years old, and some were just a few months old. And my plan for the first half of this year is to crack as many of those as I can. Now 3 of those projects are long term, will definitely not be finished this year. No, 4 won't be finished this year, because 3 of them are scrappy blankets, and so they just get worked on as and when, and you add new scraps in, etc. I'm not planning on finishing those 3 this year. If any of them do get finished this year, that's a bonus. Another one, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is a big blanket that has a lot of work on it to do, and again I don't think that will get finished this year, unless I suddenly decide later in the year to spend a month just working on it. But all the others need something to happen with them to either be finished or to be frogged. So as part of that, we are running a group, a thread on my Ravelry group. My Ravelry group is called Little Likac Podcast, and there is a link to that group if you want to join us on Ravelry. You can also enter the make along on Instagram if you use the hashtag #CrackTheWhipMal. Then any finished objects that are posted on there, I will add into the finished objects thread. I will do potentially an Instagram giveaway at some point as well. I'm going to try and do a giveaway once a month, and we'll just sort of play it by ear from where I draw those prizes. But I did say that the first giveaway would come from the Ravelry chatter thread once we reach 100 messages in there. And we have got over 100 messages, 100 posts in that thread. And so I am going to choose a winner from there today. Now, I've been chatting in that thread as well. Obviously, if the number comes up and it's one of my posts, then I will not be winning that for myself. I will draw again. I just need to get a couple of things up on my phone. I'll edit this. Okay, so we have 109 posts in that thread. So I now just need to get up a random number generator. So I've just put in, right, so I know it says 8 there, ignore that, it kind of defaults to between 1 and 10. So I've just changed, there we go, I've just changed it to 109. I'm going to press, okay, so that's 65. 65, let's have a look and see in the Ravelry thread who has written post number 65. As I say, if it is me, okay, where has my, if it is me, then I won't be winning it. So 65. 65 is Sandra JHP60, and her winning post was a reply to Polar Bear's post, who had knitted these, was working on some socks. And Sandra had replied about the carrot socks. So Sandra JHP60, I will contact you on Ravelry, but you have won this skein of yarn. So I'll be contacting you, and if you send me your address, I will get that posted out to you. Fantastic. So the next time I do, if I pull another prize out of the chatter thread, it will be from 110 to 200. So that when we get hit 200, I will pull another prize out of the chatter thread. And what was I going to say? No, yeah. But also in February, I will pull a prize off of Instagram as well. So feel free to double post. You can post on Ravelry and you can post on Instagram. If you can't post on Ravelry, and you want something entering onto the Ravelry stuff, or you don't use Instagram or Ravelry, then you can email me as well. Okay, if you email me, particularly with a finished object. So the rules are for the make along is it needs to be something that was already started before the 1st of January 2023. So anything, even if you cast it on New Year's Eve, if it was a New Year's Eve cast on, it can count. But this is a great opportunity as well, I think, to dig through your old projects, find some old stuff, and work on it and enter it. Fantastic. So congratulations to Sandra. I've just realised as well, when I was on my Ravelry page, I realised I had got my Ravelry set up to talk about this shawl, what I'm wearing. So today I am wearing the Quiet Time shawl, which is a lovely, lovely pattern. The designer is Penny Baker, who many of you may know is my friend in real life. That's how I met her at my knitting groups. That's how I knew about this pattern. She was looking for test knitters for it, and I said I would definitely do that. I thought it would be quite good stash buster because it uses 2 skeins of yarn, and the first part is just all garter stitch, so dead easy. and then the second part needs a little bit more concentration, where you have this beautiful edging. It takes 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn. It's absolutely lovely, really squishy, nice and warm. It is quite cold in here this morning. I put the heater on, but I forgot. Usually I put the heater on at least an hour, maybe 2 hours before I come down and record, because obviously there's no proper heating in this room. We've just got a little gas heater, that not gas heater, oil heater. So if I forget to put that on, then it's a bit chilly this time of year in here. So yeah, that's Quiet Time Shawl. It's really, really lovely. Right, what else is there to show you? Quite a bit actually. So as part of the as part of my rules for trying to crack through my whips, I am not allowing myself to cast anything on new until I've cast off a whip. So having cast these off, I can cast on something new. And again, there has to be a connection with it. So I could, in theory, cast on another pair of gloves if I wanted to. These are a gift, so I could cast on another gift. There has to be a connection between what I've cast off and the new thing I'm going to cast on. So I can't cast on a new sweater, for example, until I cast off the sweater that is a whip. I also said that I wanted to do some gift knitting this year, in the hope of having a whole load of gifts to give at Christmas, maybe potentially for some people at work. Now I have signed up successfully for a test knit, but it is a secret test, so I can't tell you very much about it. And I'm waiting for some needles to arrive as well, because I did a bit of a gauge swatch yesterday, and I think for the needles that I need for the right circular size, etc. So I've ordered another set from Amazon of some cheapy circular needles that should be arriving today. Next time I podcast, that pattern should be released by then, so I should be able to show you. So I haven't got a new cast on to show you today, but there is one in the works. One ready to be cast on either this evening, hopefully I'll be casting that on tonight. And as soon as that pattern is released, I will be showing it on Instagram, and it will be on my Ravelry page, etc. So what have I worked on? One of my targets then, a blanket that I am working on, is the Stitch on Sunday blanket by Menzies. And the idea of that, funnily enough, is that you complete a square every Sunday, and that is what I've been trying to do. And so January has 5 Sundays in it this month, so I had already done 2 squares. So last time you saw the podcast, I'd completed 2 squares in January, so I've got another 3 to do, and I haven't done one today. It is Sunday today, but I did it yesterday, partly because I knew I was going to film this morning, and also I'm going out later today, hence the reason why I've got my makeup on. We're taking my parents-in-law for Sunday, for afternoon tea, so I didn't think I would necessarily get time to work on the Stitch on Sunday blanket. I will do some knitting in the car when my husband's driving us over, but lace a lace pattern that I've got to read every line will not work. In fact, I'm not quite sure what I am going to take to knit on in the car. Possibly a jumper. I'll show you that in a minute. So I have done 3. So this was, I've got to go work out backwards now, 15. This is square 15. It's come up quite big, this one. But it's quite stretchy and it's come up quite big. So that is square 15. For all of these squares, I'm using Stylecraft Special DK, which is 100% acrylic. This blanket is going to be for my parents-in-law, who we're seeing today, and they don't know about it, but it needs to be something that they can just throw in the washing machine dead easily if they need to wash it. So the shade, this shade is Fuchsia Purple 1827, which is quite a bright pink, as you can see. Now my parents-in-law are both partially sighted. They have very, very poor eyesight, so it does kind of need to be quite bright. And also with doing it in lace, they've got lots of different texture, although they're not going to be able to see the lace, which also means if I make a mistake, I'm not too worried. But at least as well, though, this one's got a lovely texture to it, and each square is going to have a different texture. This was square number 16. Really like that one. I did that one last weekend, and the colourway for this one is Pale Rose 1080. And then yesterday, this one knitted really quickly, which was I'm quite surprised about. Knitted this quite really quickly last night. They have all got names, but I can't remember what all the names are, I'm afraid. And this one is in Plum, I believe. Yeah. shade 1061 Plum. So there are 40 of these to do, and I've just done 15, 16 and 17, so I'm nearly halfway through. The aim is to do one a week, which means I think I worked it out it would be finished in June, so you are going to see a lot of these. But they are, you know, if you're into knitting dishcloths and things like that, you know, you could, it's a free pattern. You'd need to get it, you can get the pattern from Kelly's website, which might still be down at the moment. She's transferring host or server or something like that, so her website is down at the moment. But pop it in your Ravelry queue or make a note of it. So Kelly Menzies is also known as RowRowandKades. She has a podcast which is always quite fun. She's a really bubbly, lovely lady. I've been lucky enough to meet her in person now as well. Should meet her again later this year, which will be lovely. So yeah, if you like dishcloths and things like that, or you want to do the whole blanket or a smaller section of it and do a baby blanket, do take a look. As I say, it is a free pattern. You can see quite clearly though how these, I was going to say they're different sizes, but I think the difference is really that this just needs stretching out. I'm knitting those on bamboo straight, just, what are they, 3.75 mil, I believe. Yeah, no, yes. 3.75 mil straight needles. I'm trying to give a bit more information today about stuff. So yes, I've kept up with those. I'm really pleased with myself with that. February has 4 Sundays, so the plan is to get 4 more done in February. So next time I see you, I'll have 1 or 2 of them done, depending on when I film the podcast. There's also another blanket I'm working on. This is one that is going to be, this is my oldest whip. It is from 2010 and it's from this book. This book is called Blankets and Throws to Knit. It is a lovely, lovely book. It's by Debbie Abrahams. Would strongly recommend it. Fairly sure you can easily get a copy off of it, probably second hand off eBay or somewhere like that if it's not in proper print anymore. And it has absolutely stunning blankets. But I think all the blanket squares are the same size, so again you could mix and match. I love that one as well. She uses a lot of bead work, but you don't have to use beads. Let me see if I can show you another one. That's another lovely one. She uses a lot of beads, but you don't have to use beads. You could do them plain, or you could just do pearl stitches where the beads are, or duplicate stitch. This is another one I love. This one uses sequins. I'm not sure how comfortable it would be to actually sit on, but it would be absolutely stunning. Look at that. That one's called Magic Carpet, and it's inspired by an ancient Tunisian rug. But the one that I am doing, let me find it, is called Queen of Hearts. And I fell in love with this. I fell in love with this a long time ago. I bought all the yarn for it, and it's Rowan hand knit cotton. Not hand knit, maybe? Rowan cotton anyway. DK. You can't, there you go, shows it a little bit better. I bought all the yarn for it in the space of, over the course of a year. I kind of kept checking for when things were on sale and bought, there you can see some more of the, kept checking when things were on sale and bought all the cotton, so therefore this is going to get finished. So the plan was to try and knit 5 squares a month, but I think I'm going to say the same and kind of do maybe however many weekends there are in the month. So I don't know, actually I think I've said that I'm going to try and do 5 in February because I'm going to be off a week in February for half term. So that might give, although February's a short month, I've got a full week off in that month. So the square that I've been working on is this square. I'm showing you this one. This one's actually not quite right. It should look like this, where you've got the bead heart in the middle and the textured hearts either side. This one went a little bit wrong. I've done a textured heart up there as well. Never mind. And also there's another one where the colour squirt combinations aren't exactly the same, which has made me think, because I think I have to do 15 of these in total, and I've done 8. So I've got one more to do to hit my 5 for this month, and I think I will get that done before the end of Tuesday. But I'm thinking as well then, so I've still got 6 more of these to do, so I might mix up the colours on the last 6 and just change them around a little bit as well, so that they don't, because I've already got now a couple that don't look the same. I'm going to make sure the next 6 also look a little bit different as well, so that it's not just one that's random. Now these are knitted. To get gauge I had to go down to 2.75mm needles, which is crazy. So it's a very tight gauge on this because it is DK cotton, not 4-ply, it's DK. But to get the gauge that it said in the book, I'm having to knit these on quite small needles. I'm also now trying, let me see where I can, to try and weave in the ends, but as I go, but that's not always as easy to do. They take a little bit of concentration. So yeah, I've got one more to do to hit my January goal with those, and I think I might get that done. So that's another one where I'm going to say I will have hit the goal. Haven't hit the goal, won't hit the goal of finishing the painted brick socks, but nearly. Have hit the goal on the SOS blanket, Stitch on Sunday blanket. Have hit the goal on the Cable Magoria blanket. Not showing you that this week, because I had done my allotted amount on that last time, so you've already seen that. So this was the other thing that I wanted to get to a certain stage on. Haven't got to that stage, won't get to that stage in the month. And in fact, last time I podcast, I don't think I've done anything on this, but I have done quite a bit on it now. Well, I say quite a bit, it's not a huge amount actually, but where is the, I think it was about there, yeah. So I've done about that on the front. This is the Cable Crush Hoodie by Knitatude, and it's knitted in the round to the sleeves from the bottom up, and now I've kind of split for the sleeves and I'm working on the front and back separately. I had said I wanted to complete both the front and back section of this. Nowhere near, nowhere near. But so I'm going to reset that for the February goal, that by the end of February I've knitted the front and back on this. So I'm not going to be knitting myself another garment for a long time at this rate. So this is being knitted with Manos, the Uruguay Maxima, which is a worsted weight, and it is a hooded cable. Kind of looks a little bit like a what's the word I want, a hoodie. So yeah, this is actually though what I think I'm going to work on in the car. So it's not exactly very portable, but I'm going to take this in the car with me today because it's relatively straightforward. I know it has got cables in, but the cables are only every 10 rows and it takes quite a while to do each row. So I think I'm going to take that with me to work on in the car on the way over to my parents-in-law and the way back. See how much I get done on there. So let me just move the progress keeper. So that is part of my targets for this month. Nowhere near done. Nowhere near done. But I think that's the one that I'm least on. The other one's the Anthology Throw, which is another blanket, which I've only done a few rows on because again I'd hit my target. My target was to put 4 colours in on that, and I'd hit my target for that last time you'd seen it, last time I podcast, so I'm not going to show you that again today. So I don't think I've done badly, considering as I say, we had a family weekend last weekend. I suppose the first few days of January I wasn't at work, but yeah, February I've got a full week off, so although it's a short week, I've got a full week off. and I don't think like I've got anything that's going to majorly have a knock on you know, minimising what I knit. What I do need to get done, I really need to get some shop updates done, because I've dyed some beautiful yarn before I went back to school, and I still haven't named them and photographed them. So I really do need to get that done. Photographing is quite difficult at the moment during the week, so I have to do it at the weekend, and the weekends have been really busy. So yeah, I just really need to get that sorted. I will be doing quite a bit of dyeing over the next couple of months, because I've got a couple of shows and what was I going to say? I've got shows coming up, and I need to say I want to do some shop updates. The sock club is back up and running. That is the Gothic Mystery Sock Club. That is back. Slightly different dates on that. You need to sign up. I think it's by the 2nd or 3rd of the month, and then I'll ship them out by the middle of the month. So there is still time to sign up for February if you want to. So yeah, let's quickly talk about the goals for next month. A lot of them are very similar. I want to get 4 Stitch on Sunday blanket squares done, 5 Queen of Hearts squares done. Louis the Owl needs doing. Louis the Owl has had no attention this month, and I'm feeling bad about that. So actually Louis the Owl is one of the first things I want to finish in February. I'm going to be taking part in something called a Stash Dash that starts on the 11th of February, which is all about knitting as many yards of yarn as you can. So I actually want to get Louis the Owl finished before then, because Louis the Owl needs some sewing up and things like that, and that's all takes time, but won't be many meters or yardage of yarn. Stash Dash is part of a forum that I'm on Ravelry. I think the Ravelry forum is called Stash Knit Down, something like that. And I've been on there for years actually, and did some of their challenges a couple of years ago when I was trying to get through some stash. Yeah, that's another thing actually. One of the things I'm trying to work on this year is getting through more stash than I have coming in. I haven't bought anything this month, and there's only a few days left to go. Yay! I'm not going to say that I'm not going to buy anything in February, because I will be attending the opening of a new shop called Nibbles, Needles and Hooks, which is in Pilsley in Derbyshire. Pilsley is kind of near Clay Cross, so if you live in Derbyshire, it's kind of near Clay Cross, up between Alfreton and Tupton. Alfreton and Chesterfield is in that area. So there is a new shop opening then. I think she's planning on opening on the 25th of February, and I am going to the launch party for that. So I clearly would like to buy something from her to support her new business. It may not be yarn, perhaps I'll choose to buy some needles or notions or something else, but I'm certainly not going to say that I won't buy anything, but that's the only yarn that I'm planning to buy, is to buy something from there to support her. So yeah, obviously this January I haven't had a lot of finished objects, so there's not a lot that's officially out. 1 pair of socks, 1 pair of gloves, between them they added up to about 100 grams. Okay, but also I'm counting this as coming out of my stash, so that is 200 grams out of my stash and nothing coming in, so that's pretty good. But obviously as some of these bigger projects get finished, when they get finished, that I will count all the yarn that's been used in that project. So hopefully some of when these bigger projects start to get finished, then I will suddenly have large quantities coming out of my stash. Also, I'm going to be looking for some, when I'm doing when I'm doing my gift knits, I'm going to look for things that knit quickly, and perhaps things where I can hold 2 or 3 skeins, 2 or 3 strands of yarn at the same time. So it will be a bulkier weight, knit more quickly and use more yarn. That's the plan, or one of the plans. So holding things double or even triple. So yes, what else so Louis the Owl needs to be finished. The painted brick socks need to be finished. I can't cast on another pair of housemate socks though until I finish off a whip sock. So I've got a pair of plain vanilla socks that's one sock's completed, the other one's not, so I'm going to try and get that done so that I can then cast on a simple pair of socks for the housemate socks. Or I suppose in theory when I finish Louis the Owl I could cast on the housemate socks, because Louis the Owl is a gift and the housemate socks are gifts as well. So that's another way of getting started on those. Because my rule is, can't cast on something completely new until a whip has been cast off. And until I've worked through all of those whips, that's the rule. So that I will not have more whips than I started with at the beginning of the year. Hopefully I'll have fewer. Right, okay, I'm going to stop burbling and babbling on now. Thank you for sticking with me if you have stuck with me all the way through this. Remember, if you want to be part of the knit along and you want the chance of winning something in the giveaways, then you can join us on Ravelry or Instagram. The hashtag is crackthewhipmal2023. So please tag things on there, tag me in on it as well if you can, that'd be great. And join in on Ravelry, come and join us and see what everybody else is making. If you are putting finished objects in the finished object thread, that's great, but please, because the finished object thread is one that you can't chatter in, please post your finished objects in the chatter thread as well, so that we can all respond to them and comment on them. That would be lovely. Alright, so thank you so much for watching. I really hope I've talked about everything I planned to talk about. I'm sure there's probably other things going on. But I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for watching. Bye.